Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Parks and Travel podcast, covering parks, public lands, and historic landmarks across America and around the world. Welcome, everyone. Today is September 8th, 2024, and it marks the release of National Parks USA that premieres on National Geographic. This is an awesome 5-part series, and it takes you to some of our most beautiful national parks: Zion, Yellowstone, Katmai, the Everglades, and Olympic National Park. And today we're excited to have Thomas Miller join us. He's an aerial cinematographer who focused mostly on Zion and Olympic National Park. So welcome to the show, Thomas. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Well, we love this series so much, and it's just like I told Jeff Reed, also a photographer on the show, cinematographer, and I was like, you guys made us cry. Yeah, it's true. You made us cry, and people normally think that as being like a fiction show, right? That someone would cry, but the beauty, and I think what you managed to do so well is, when you do the aerial side of it, it gives us this bird's eye view that we can't see regularly when we're on foot, and gives us this extra massive layer of magnificence. Do you feel that when you're up there? I mean, are you always up there? Because there's drones too, right?
Um, I specialize in aerials. So
Hmm.
I started out on the ground as a camera assistant years ago and sort of found my niche in aerials and started shooting aerials in 1998. So
Wow.
that's been pretty much all I do. I mean, occasionally I'll do some ground stuff or actually boat work. And like I've done a lot of work with sea otters and
Oh,
on
cool.
the coast. And so that's always a lot of fun. Or dolphins. The marine life, I love shooting marine life as well, or filming. I shouldn't say shoot.
Yeah, really. Yeah, we got to be
Um,
careful here. Yeah.
yeah, but aerials, the great thing about aerials, it's really kind of the exclamation point on
Hmm.
I'm the transition to the revealing, the opening, the
Hmm.
when we're gonna uh show the overall picture
Right.
of the grandeur of what we're looking at.
Hmm.
And that's why I always love um what I do in that
Hmm.
respect. But I have to be very focused um and not kind of fall in love with what I'm filming. Because, and what I
Cool.
mean by that is that there's it technically you're always on. I don't have a lot of time. I'm not camped out in a forest. I'm not um up there like in for example in Olympic, we had 2 days of filming, 3 hours each. So it was essentially just a
Wow.
loop. It was a 3 hour loop that we figured out. And if we're like rain, if we had fog and on the coast, we were going to do this. If that wasn't working out, we were going to go over here. And and if we get a bug on the lens, we have to go outside the park to land. We can't land in the park. So we're always on edge in terms of, at least I am, uh, that something technical is going to go wrong. To
Wow.
force
Yeah.
us to, and there's really no contingency. They did allow me to, there is some, but it's very expensive in a helicopter. So you have to sort of have, when I tell my clients a lot of times is, um, just tell me what the story is about. What elements you need me to convey visually in the story.
Hmm.
Don't get locked into details,
Hmm.
um, because we go searching for details that eats up time, and we don't
Hmm.
have a lot of time. So Jeff was really great about giving me some bullet points to really hit that they needed to
Hmm.
see. And on that show on Olympic, it was the ecosystems and how
Yes.
the flow of the water
Yeah.
went from the mountains, the glaciers, down into the valleys. and then out to the coastline. And that feeds that whole ecosystem in
That's amazing. It's amazing what you can do by doing that. And then, so you're going up with helicopters, which is different than people think everything's drone. So what is the difference? When do you make the call of drone versus helicopter? And because
um,
I aren't you isn't there's restrictions on this too, right? So you have to work with the parks and everything to make it
there are,
happen.
when we initially Jeff contacted me February of 2023. That's when we first started talking about this. We ended up
Mm,
filming in August or September of 2023. Um, we had Zoom meetings.
mm,
I initially, when a client comes to me, they want an estimate, right? So
mhm.
it's all
Sure.
money, right? So I put
Yeah.
together, and I knew exactly Northwest Helicopters was going to be the helicopter company that I used because they're 30
Okay.
minutes outside the park, and they have a relationship with the park.
Okay,
They're
that's cool.
flying over the park all the time. So that's key. You want to make sure that you have that your liaison, the helicopter company, is going to be in good standing with where you're going to go film. So Doug Utek, who's the chief pilot there, he immediately called the park and let them know what we were going to do. And they don't they don't really permit,
Okay.
but it's again for flying over national parks, a lot of times it's recommended altitudes and not it's not like a strict, you have to stay at this altitude. So we just tried to maintain safe altitudes and didn't fly over personal persons and property and things like
Oh
that.
yeah. So when you're doing this and going up in helicopters, I've heard it's like it can be kind of scary. Like, do you lean? I mean, it's like, I
You
mean,
know,
yeah,
I
what's going on with that to get
I
those
only
shots?
fly I only fly with very experienced pilots
Mm,
that have thousands of hours. Um, if I don't feel the pilot's job is amazing because they have to multitask. They're
mhm,
they're dealing with towers, they're dealing with me
mhm.
in the
Right,
backseat.
yeah.
Get lower, get lower.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah. See, yeah.
and I I really don't concern myself initially with this the safety part of it because I can't. I mean, that's not my job
Yeah.
is to get in and get amazing shots. So that I tell the pilots a lot of times, especially ones that I haven't flown with before, I'll say, listen, if you feel that what I'm asking you to do is unsafe, don't do it. You don't have to prove
Okay.
anything to me.
Right.
I'm going to tell you to do some stuff that, you know, you may not feel comfortable doing. And if that's the case, if you don't feel 100% comfortable doing it, don't do it. And I won't hold anything against you. Okay.
Yeah,
That's keep
really.
it safe. Your job is to keep us safe so we come back. And if we get some epic shots along the way, that's awesome.
Mm,
If we don't and we get what they need, then that's great too. So
that's cool.
yeah, fortunately in the Olympic case, we were able to get amazing shots and
Mm.
come safely.
Well, yeah, but it's interesting. So, do you? Okay, so like with your gear, I even look at it like when you go on you're looking over like a canyon, like Gunnison of Black Canyon, right? You go of Black Canyon of Gunnison, yeah, and you're leaning over, and I'm like, dude, no, I'm going like I'm total vertigo. Obviously, you're okay, but I'm like, dude, what if? And then there's that side of me like, oh, who cares? Like this is such a cool picture, right?
I,
So it's
you
this
know,
weird thing that happens, yeah, that vibe.
it's
Ooh,
it's the sort of I think the battle photographers syndrome
mm,
where you somehow feel like you're removed in a way. You're
yeah,
looking
it's
at this
weird.
monitor and you're not really there. And it's just you just like you see this image and you want to compose. And that's the
Hmm.
most important thing is
Yeah.
composing, not, oh, am I flying 2 inches off this rock?
Yeah,
It-
it's weird.
which has like when if I feel like I have had moments where I've kind of pushed myself back from the monitor and going,
Yeah,
whoa, okay, no, no,
yeah.
no, we don't need to do that anymore.
But
Yeah,
that's the thing. But then you kind of go, and then it kind of snaps you off course if you do that. The
yeah,
whoa thing
yeah.
kind of then it's like you lose that whole focus,
I have to trust the pilot. I have to
Yeah.
trust the pilot, and
Wow.
that's part of it. I mean, that's part of being an aero cinematographer. It's,
Wow.
if you're a marine photographer or cinematographer, you trust your experience to know, or whoever's helping you, assisting you under the water.
Mm,
You have to kind of let go, because if you're always on guard,
mm.
it's just, and it's kind of the tough thing about what I do, because I'm up there by myself. I don't have a technician with me. If
Okay.
things go wrong technically with the system, I have to make it work. I don't, there's
Mm.
no, I've
Yeah.
had situations where I was in Rome and I literally had 30 minutes over Rome to film the Colosseum,
Oh,
the Vatican, these little
wow.
points that they had, and
Yeah.
my system started blacking out. Like the
No.
image started just going out
Mm-mm.
and then coming back and then going out and coming back. And my horizon gyro, every time the pilot would key to talk to the tower, my gyro would start to roll like this.
No.
Had to, I had to counter roll, and I had to imagine there was actually an image based on the framing that I had
Yep.
before the image went out. I kept that framing. And
Wow.
if you watch the show in Italy, it's framed and it's level, but all this stuff is going on, and I have to be able to deal with that while I'm
Yeah.
dealing with everything else that's going
That
on. So
that's
it's quite,
crazy.
it is crazy. It's that, and that's kind of the thing about when you work in a helicopter, um, a discipline like this, a specialty like this, you have to be able to um, just feel at ease with the environment.
Mm,
If you feel at ease with the environment, then you can start to create. If
mm,
you're worried about the environment that you're in, I mean, I couldn't
mm.
imagine going under the water and filming great white sharks or something like that. I couldn't imagine. So I would be so scared. And
Everybody's got their thing. Yeah. Like
yeah.
I freak people out because I mean, even yesterday, I filmed alligators yesterday, and people are like, you can't get close, and I'm like, dude, the alligators were just coming up to the boat. I can't film that. And I'm like, look, they're cute. And it was people don't find them cute. I find them cute. And oh, everyone, the Everglades section of like, don't ever look at what I photograph. Like the Everglades portion of this is it's extraordinary, true. But like you're moving. So you do boat and helicopter. So you're moving. And that is like a whole other thing on its own to be able to film while moving. I know you've got everything to stabilize and all that kind of stuff, but
hmm hmm
you're still having to kind of find that rhythm and understand like if you're on a boat, you have to understand the the movement, right? To be able
Yeah,
to
yeah,
capture that.
yeah.
Mm.
Um, the most on the boat, the most challenging was I worked on this thing for, I think it was called 3D or 4D dolphin. It's for the Atlanta Aquarium. They
Oh.
have, I think, a 4D experience, and we filmed uh dolphins at 1,000 millimeter at 1,000 frames per second. And they rented a boat taxi because dolphins love to porpoise
Mm-hmm.
out of the boat. So they rented a boat taxi to go alongside with us. And then I would frame just in front of the bow of the boat so that
Yeah.
we would catch the dolphin as it would break the water at 1,000 frames per second. It was quite remarkable. And then we would do straight down shots of the dolphins off the bow of our boat. And the director would be, okay, I want you to, zoom in on that. And I'm like vertical. I've got a black hood over my head. The camera's on a crane arm. The boat's rocking, and he's wanting me to follow dolphins uh, that
That's
are just
cool though.
coming up from under the bow and then porpoising. And so I would follow them up and then out of the water, and then up and out of the water and over here. No, no,
Mm-hmm.
no. And it's your inner ear gets used to it. I guess
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's my hand on the joystick that connects me.
Yeah. Some kind of
Um,
form of that's like a balancer in a way.
Yeah, but
Mm,
the technology, I was using a GSS system and it had my degrees. So I knew where my camera was. I knew where it was panned and where I was tilted. So
wow.
I could visually see on the monitor where I was so that I didn't get disorientated. I could come back to,
Mm,
zeroing.
wow.
Once I learned that, that
Technical.
was a big
I was
relief.
gonna say because that's technical, right? So it's like you've got the composition, you've got to
Yeah.
get past the fear part of it,
Get
but you
get
better know all that stuff because that's needs
yeah.
to be secondhand, right?
Yeah,
When
get
you're
over
going,
being sick. If you're
mhm.
sick, you can't
Yeah.
operate.
No, and if you don't, you're not allowed. You don't even let yourself. But when you were doing Zion, were you doing
Yeah.
part of the bighorn sheep part of that, like seeing them, or was that more on ground?
No, the Zion was the tough thing about Zion was
Zion
that
is tough. You got all those
yeah,
little crevices, man.
yeah. The tough thing, I filmed it a couple times. I filmed it for Aerial America
Hmm.
and I filmed it and now for this show, National Parks. Um No, we didn't have a lot of time. We had 3 hours. We basically had 3 hours.
Wow.
So, again, Jeff, because it's not like at Olympic was 30 minutes from Northwest.
Yeah.
We had to fly a ship. Um, there's only one helicopter company in Zion, and they're a tour company, and they don't
Mm.
really do aerial cinematography. I called them, but they didn't. So the closest helicopter really was Sundance, and they were in Vegas. So I
Yeah.
drove out to Vegas. We rigged up in Vegas, and it's 45-minute flight out to Georgetown, and then we based there. So we really only had 3 hours total. So the first day, I think we did like an hour, and so what I did, and it's really important because there's a lot of tourists there, not so much
Mm.
that that you see in Olympic. In Zion, in the main stretch of Zion, there's a lot of tourists.
Yeah.
So you want to be really careful of that. And a helicopter screaming down the center, slapping blades, makes a lot of noise, and especially echoes off the canyon. Not really
No,
that great.
yeah, yeah.
So our plan was go in at like say 6,000 feet and get these amazing
Mm.
vistas.
You
Um,
did.
and and we did a shot all the way up the canyon initially, but we're so high up that we're not disturbing anybody.
That's
And then we
nice.
did a cross pattern. Um, and then I can't remember exactly what else we went over the arch, shot some
Mm-hmm.
arches, and then I think that was it for that day. The weather started coming in, so we decided to save what little time we had for the next day.
Mm-hmm.
We woke up at sunrise and went and shot. Again, we started with the arches at
Yes.
sunrise and then Angel's Landing. We got a lot more detailed. We did lower passes because we knew we were on our
Mm.
way out. So we did lower passes and then film people on top of Angel's Landing, which I think is at the
Okay,
end
that's
of the piece.
yeah.
Yeah.
Th- It brought, I think Zion brought this balance to all 5 episodes. It was like kind of this balance or of like showing like the geology of the Southwest. I mean, obviously look at, Olympic has got all of it
Hmm.
does, right?
Hmm.
All of it is fascinating, but it just goes, oh yes, and here's the West, like this Southwest. It's just amazing, when you just brought that in. I thought, okay, good, we got to have that balance in there so people understand that kind of area. But going up and when that that would be a little bit more freaky to me than Olympic going up in a helicopter. I don't know because you could splash somewhere. But then you did the glaciers, and that's the thing I think
Yeah.
people when you're doing Olympic is bringing that ecosystem together, that topography together, that
Yeah.
we know, okay, that the glaciers happen, and if you maybe get into the wilderness and get to hike out there, you'll get it, but you still don't because you don't see the other portion. But when you see that kind of thing happen, you get to understand how the systems work together. And I don't think you can quite, our brains don't quite put it all together unless you see it from the top,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And that's where to get back to your earlier question, that's where helicopter really
Mm-hmm.
stands out in terms of the very high altitude
Mm.
shots.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look at what a helicopter can do, just within the 3 hours, I can go from the top of the mountain to the shoreline,
Wow.
to the coast. I can
That's
zoom in really tight. I mean, on that, I have a 50 to 1000 millimeter lens. I wasn't using it on this job. I was using the 25 to 250 just because I knew I didn't have a lot of time.
mm,
Jeff was he wanted me to try and get shots of wildlife, but I said, Jeff, really, yeah, do, that eats up a lot of time.
yeah,
Wildlife,
that's a specialist.
it really does. And so, like when I did, I actually worked for Jeff back in, was it 2018, 2019 on Epic Yellowstone?
Yeah, you know what? You guys, we actually did an interview with Tom's and his wife. I, we we did an interview on that.
Okay.
I just figured that out yesterday because he was mentioning names. I'm like, I know those names. I looked it up and we did a podcast on
Oh,
Epic
great.
Yellowstone. That is that is a
But
that is epic.
I had
Yeah.
it was a week in the spring, and I had a week in the winter,
Mm,
and we had days of just going out to film wildlife,
that's what it takes.
bears. Yeah, that's what you just need the time
Mm,
because the wildlife they're very keen. Bears they're easily spooked. It's not easy to shoot wildlife at all because as soon as they see
mm,
the helicopter, they're gone.
yeah.
And in order for me to be in the right attitude, the right
Mm,
lighting, I remember I was filming, it was in Kodiak, and we were filming
mm,
the bears in the salmon run. And the director says to
wow.
me, now I want a shot of a salmon jumping out of the water and into the bear's mouth. And I just looked over to him. I said, do you know there's guys like in hides, like for a month trying to get this shot?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we've got 15 minutes, and I actually got a salmon. It came out of the water and it hit him in the snout, and then it bounced off onto a rock and he ate it. So
That was as close as you
close
can
enough,
get.
close enough.
But yeah, but I mean that's an interesting thing because I think we never really think about the perspective of the aerial cinematographer. We just think someone is on the ground with a drone, pointing the drone to go and seeing, oh, this is what we got. So I'm glad you're talking about this because I think that's a do you know what I mean? I mean, just think about it. How many people realize who's going up in helicopters? I've heard some crazy helicopter stories of, like, you know, yeah, some crazy like people hanging off trying to get some good shots. And like I'm going, you guys can do that. That's really good. I'm really glad you do it. And I really appreciate your work because I'm not going to hang off a helicopter. But you guys, some of them do and some don't. And I mean, even going to get the wildlife, that is difficult.
That's my favorite part.
But how do you see like how a
That's where
herd looks, right?
that's where the pilot really comes in. I mean,
Mm,
I've worked with some pilots that they work for the national parks, they work for Fish and
mm,
Game, and a lot of them they're tagging or they're
mm.
doing some sort of mitigation work, and they're really good at spotting
Okay.
herds, animals, and that's who you need. And then it's all about how do you get close to the animal with a helicopter? How to orientate the blades so they're not slapping the air because as soon as they
Okay.
make that vibration, the you've given
Hmm.
yourself up. With the 51,000, you can get pretty I mean, you can get tight on the animal, but if I zoom out, you'll see how really far away we are.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's tricky because I'll have pilots that are not familiar with, and they just immediately fly right over. Oh, did you see that elk? And they fly right over the elk, and the elk's like, ah.
No, no, you've got to understand there's a relationship
You
between the
have to
two. Like you have to be sneak attack, it's like
exactly.
you
You
have to be
see them,
slow.
and then you see them, and then you edge off, and you get a
Hmm.
go around. You just keep away from them, and then you kind of bring it in slowly. And I've shot wild Mustang in
Oh
Nevada,
yeah.
and with pilots that knew how to herd the Mustang
Yeah,
and
we've
get them to
actually been
calm
out there too.
down and get them to
Yeah.
calm down because you don't want to. Animals don't look right running away like they're evading prey. Those
Mm.
aren't the shots that you want to get. You want to get them in their natural
Yeah,
habitat.
once they see that you're there, it's kind of the same thing when you're out like when we hike and do our park stuff, we just actually will just sit down. We know like this is the spot. And
Yeah.
you can kind of feel like something's there and we'll chill, maybe have a picnic, just chill. And
Yeah.
then next thing you know you're there. They sniff you out. They're like, all right, whatever. And then they continue on their way. And if you're just there, that's why wildlife takes 10 years,
Exactly.
right? You're there. They know you're there. It's not like they don't know the helicopter's there. They're just going, okay, this is a big bird and it's
Yeah.
hanging out and it's there. But you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
because you gave it that breath, right? Instead
Yeah.
of just going
Yeah.
right on top, because that's
Exactly.
predatory, So
Exactly.
you'd have
Yes.
to know the animals and the pilot has to
Yes.
know. So
Yeah.
that's why you said
And
like
that's
Olympic
usually
was really great because he knows that park specifically.
exactly,
Mm,
exactly. And they're very, very good. They're there every
mm.
month doing something.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so they know like the back of their hands, and they're very comfortable flying
Mm.
through the glaciers. We got some great shots climbing up and then revealing the blue glacier.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, I that blue, and that's where you have to stay focused because you become the kid in the candy store and you're like, oh, this is great. And
Yeah,
you
exactly. Because I mean, look at it. I was just looking because it's not even how you expect it to look, but it gives us that look of there is like an ice age trail that goes through, and it
yeah,
gives us this, it's kind of something that was far away and doesn't ever, you can't imagine it until you see it from the aerial view. That's what I was saying. It
yeah.
just made everything make sense. So you have to know wildlife, you have to understand like geography, right? Do you go through maps? Are you looking at maps as you're doing this and
When
before?
before.
Mm,
In the old days, I have a great picture in the Grand Canyon. The pilot has the map
yeah.
furled in the front seat, and it's like he's looking at a map while he's flying below the canyon. And I
Nice.
what are you doing? He was
Yeah.
very old school. He was very old school. Today it's all GPS and for flight, and but look at maps on for flight, and we may bring out a old school map, at the very beginning,
Yeah.
but most of it is on iPads now
Oh,
and
yeah.
looking on the screen, but and which is extremely helpful because you can plot your points.
Mm.
Jeff, I had Jeff give us some KMZ files of specific points, and then
Okay.
we can upload those into ForeFlight, and it's
Okay.
little bullet points so we know
Exactly
exactly where to
where.
go to. Yeah. So
Yeah.
and that's super helpful because
So
then we
Jeff
can
had to do a
plot.
lot of pre-promo, like
Yeah, yeah.
pre-production work, like like
Yeah, and he was always out in the field.
research.
He was
Yeah. I think he likes it out there.
yeah.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't?
Yeah.
But that's so though. You always talk about the helicopters now, right? So what about the planes? I mean, that's where I grew up in South Africa and Kenya, and there were all it was more the bush pilots. Like, so would you ever go and do photography and
I've
aerial
done, but it's
photography that
it's
way?
the thing is with the plane is that uh
It doesn't turn as well,
very
does it?
restrictive. Yeah, well, it's very
Yeah.
restrictive. It's limited in terms of in most places they have like 1,000 foot limit. Although I have
Oh,
seen planes fly a lot lower than 1,000 feet. Yeah, I've shot the Bahamas from a fixed wing, and I didn't have a big field of view. I was like pointed back.
okay.
It's really depends on what I found is that whenever you're dealing with fixed wing, usually it's a budget issue.
Okay.
If they had money to throw at it, it would be a helicopter. So they're putting you in a fixed wing, and the guys that do fixed wing well are the owner operators, the ones who have their own plane and they've dialed it in to maybe like
Mm,
a helio courier where it doesn't have the struts that
okay.
come down that would get in the way of your shot. I had a pilot that I worked with, Robert Campbell, a
Mm,
fantastic landscape photographer, aerial photographer. He actually studied with Ansel Adams.
oh,
But he had a helio courier and he had a camera mount in the back, and he would call me up every so often, and I would go and shoot like boats coming into the Golden Gate, and he would crab the fixed wing sideways. He'd crab it. We'd fly
that's crazy.
sideways so I could get the shot.
No,
It
all
was
right, you guys are
unbelievable what he
crazy. You guys are crazy. You
did.
are. Okay. No, really, because I can't even do bridges. All right. So like, but I do. I do. I just have to put Bob Marley on and I can do anything. That's all just calm. Just it's all good. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. But I have to think because the wings are in the way. That's the
Yeah,
thing. That's
I
the
mean,
thing. Simple
it's
thing.
not a great field of view. Now, the guys that have it dialed, there's some guys that have built wing strut mounts for their gimbals.
Wow.
And that works. That works really well. But and Bob actually had a nose mount that he had constructed to his wing so he could put the camera on the wing. But again, it's more limited than a helicopter.
Wow.
So it's
Yeah.
usually kind of a budgetary thing. Like a lot of the sports casters that do like stadiums, they've
Uh-huh.
switched to fixed wing because it's cheaper. It's cheaper
Okay.
than, doing
Hmm.
a helicopter.
I don't know, but it does sound like fun actually going sideways, like doing that. That kind of does sound
I was
fun.
it that was one of those moments where I was just like, you can do this in
You just you can do this. It's like so when you go up, okay, before you go, but when you go up, when you know you've got X amount of time to do this, right? It's just like I used to do, I was a musician on stage, so anything could go wrong. And when you think
Yeah,
anything could go wrong, then you think, oh, I've been through everything. And then just as soon as you get that mindset, oopsie, something
yeah.
else that you never dreamed of can go wrong. Um, it really can. And, but when you know you're going out there, is there just like, do you kind of have like an adrenaline rush knowing because it's
Oh,
like a
I
challenge.
well,
It's like an epic challenge to do what you're doing.
I'm on pin, I wouldn't say pins and needles, but I'm it's really for me because I care about what I do. I care about
Hmm.
the images and I want to give the most
Hmm.
amazing images to my client and I'm it's a tough thing. A lot of times I go, God, why can't I just write? Why can't, why do I have to be in here? Because
You have to put a
you know,
you have to put
I
a
have to worry
helicopter
about
in,
the
right?
helicopter. I have to worry about, is my pilot gonna, give me
Hmm.
what I, is he gonna, because you never know really, at
Yeah.
certain what you're gonna get.
Mm.
And so there's always anticipation of what's gonna happen, what's really gonna happen.
Yeah, because like when you go on stage, like we'd get the butterflies, right? So that's kind of
Yeah.
what I was saying. Do you kind of I'd have to have like a way to just calm down, just
Yeah,
kind of and focus.
it's once the shots start happening and
Mm.
but like when we initially started flying out and we're getting to Mount Olympus and everything technically is going great with my gimbal, everything's looking good, the air quality is good because that was another thing,
Oh yeah, yeah.
that's a big part of it. When see I was really fortunate. Jeff gave me he had a lot of trust in me, which I was really happy to
Mm.
he basically didn't send anybody with me. He's like, well, you did Epic Kills. You can do it. Just go shoot it. So I basically called the helicopter company and I put them on standby. And I said, Doug, let me know when you think a good window is coming in of high pressure that's gonna, you know, give us the
Yeah.
best with visibility. And and it's tricky up in the Northwest. It can be very tricky. That's a good time of year. The time we
Mm.
went shoot it. I think it was July, August that we did that. But um, so the other problem we have are wildfires.
I was gonna bring that up. Wildfires are give you epic sunsets, and but
Yeah, but
it's
terrible
sad.
vistas. Yeah. So what happened was the weather was looking great. There were no wildfires. At that particular time, I said, you know what, Doug? Let's do it.
Now
Because if we
before.
wait anymore, a wildfire could happen and you guys could get booked up
Hmm.
because they fight
Do
fires.
rescue.
So I
Yeah.
go, let's do it. So I just loaded up my van and I headed north. And the day I started going, a fire broke out up, I think near Spokane.
Mm.
And but you know how the smoke travels. Fortunately, it was blowing, I believe it was blowing east. So we were able to get in there, but then it changed a little bit and it came in. So there is a little bit hazy in the footage that I shot, but it
Mm.
wasn't bad at all. It wasn't bad at
Yeah.
all. It got terrible right after I left.
Wow. That was good
Absolutely
timing.
terrible.
Yeah, no time
And
like
so
the
that's
present. Yeah.
you just gotta you sometimes you just have to go for it. And if you just wait too long, you're gonna run into all sorts of problems. That comes with experience because
Right.
if you know, a lot of times I'm flying into an area and then we have the option to film right away or go to our hotels and have a nice meal and plan
Mm,
for the next day. I can't tell you how many times we've done that. And then the next day was just terrible and we couldn't film at
yeah.
all. We thought it was going to be great, or just something happens that prevents us from filming. So it's you have to take these opportunities when they're given to you, especially with nature and
I was going to
with
say climate change right now, just even with us traveling. I mean, we're dodging hurricanes, tornadoes all the
yes,
time. And it's like
yeah,
the weather, I mean,
you
it's
can't
there and
trust it.
you can't. And it changes. Even you could be standing right where the weather says everything's fine. And I'm going, I just watched trees come down. What's going on? Where's the
Yeah,
delay? Or maybe
yeah,
it's just because of where I am at that time of digital signaling and stuff. So it's, we watch that. We're like, we live on the weather. you
yeah.
know but I can imagine that for what you do. I mean, 'cause especially being up there, and it's wildfires like you're talking about Zion. Wildfires happen around that
Oh,
area, and also when monsoon storms come. Now that would be fun. Are you allowed to be up there in a monsoon storm? Because that would be pretty cool.
you know, I to be honest with you, I've always wanted to, that's been kind of like a bucket list thing that I've
Yeah.
wanted to go out and film storms. And specifically in the Midwest, I thought it would
Oh,
be because there have been times
you
when
see
in
tunnel.
Aerial America, when we were coming back and we were like racing hailstorms. We're in the helicopter and the pilot's like, we got to get to shelter. I've got to put the helicopter in a hangar. So we're frantically calling airports, trying to find some place. And I'm looking out over these cornfields and just seeing these crazy cells, but at that time, I was shooting on HD, and it
Mm,
the latitude to really
mm.
hold the highs and the highlights.
Okay. Yeah.
And so if I expose for the highlights, everything else is good. But some of the, the newer cameras like the Venice and things could really hold that. And could be amazing.
I mean, it's amazing how much technology has changed even in cameras now. I mean,
Yeah.
now people are running
Yes.
around, with a phone, and I'm going, I just know. But anyway, yeah, it's good. But there's just something. It's too little. I want something heavy. To me, I
Yeah.
feel like you need to have the heavy balance. But yeah, I mean, the film. I mean, we've gone through like so many tornadoes and dodged them. But there's that side of you that wants to go in. I can't
I don't
explain
know if
the.
I want to go in it, but I
I
being comfortably removed from it,
I
but being
but
able
I
to
don't know
visually
how
see
to
it.
be comfortably
Yeah.
removed and do it. Like I don't know how
Oh,
they do
well.
it, but it's just kind of like it draws you in because it's so
Yeah.
neat,
Yeah.
and then dark
Yeah,
you
that
pop
that's
out.
the war cameraman's,
It's tempting.
yeah, you just like you're looking at the
Y-
frame and nothing can hurt me.
Oh, yeah, no, I've done too much weird weather stuff, and you go up in helicopters and do that stuff, but like I want to be on ground. So I appreciate what you do big time because I want to do it, but I'm too much of a baby to ever do that. No, it's all right. I've been on planes where you can actually see out there's like cracks, like in those little planes, and you
Huh?
can see the ground. And I'm going, how? I thought everything was supposed to be sealed. Apparently not. And then we went over the ocean, and then I'm like, this is not cool. This is not fun. There's sharks in there. No, but they thought it was fun. Anyway, well, thank you so much, Thomas, for joining us. It's
My
been so
pleasure.
much fun to learn about your side of doing this series of National Parks USA. Everyone, again, it is out today, September 8th. So go get it through National Geographic. And also, thank you for giving us an insight of what you do as an aerial cinematographer. It's awesome.
Thank
Pretty
you so
epic.
much. Thank you
Thanks.
so much. I appreciate that.
Thanks for joining us here on Big Blend Radio's Parks and Travel podcast. Visit nationalparktraveling.com to plan your next park adventure and to see our Parks and Travel digital magazine. You can keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.